Hello there, everybody. Sherman, Leave a Legacy, episode number 57. This one goes out to Nicole, who wanted some specific information about when it comes to referrals, more of like a process. When it comes to referrals, I think the old school way used to be this attitude of it's for me, right? So I get paid in two ways, used to be the conversation. You either do business with me or you give me referrals, which is a very selfish way to look at referrals. I think when it really comes down to why do you ultimately want referrals? Number one is it helps you control who you sit across from. And then number two, what it does, it matches your passion and skill set with the right kind of person. And so by having more control over who your prospect is and ultimately then who your client then becomes. So the first step really is, why do most people have a hard time asking for referrals? It really gets down to the process that they don't have one, they're just winging it, or they haven't established the process strong enough habitually that it becomes almost second nature. So the first thing in the process is to identify in the sales cycle, when do you feel comfortable asking for a referral? Is it going to be in that first engagement? Is it going to be in a presentation? Is it going to be in a close? Is it going to be in an annual review? In some part, you want to be able to identify for yourselves, I'm going to ask every single time. When you make it consistent and make it a habit, for you emotionally, it's going to come down, it's going to reduce that anxiety, and thus it's going to be able to make that client feel much more comfortable in engaging with the referral. The next step after you establish a process is to get your language down. And you've heard a whole multitude of just different languages. I'll give you one that is very common in industry. It's just basically the value ask. So at some point, you're going to ask the client, did you find value in engaging with me? You ask it as a close-ended question, so that way there's just a yes or a no. If you want to dig in deep for some critical feedback, you can ask them what do they specifically find value about engaging with you. And that'll give you a good idea of what they're thinking when it comes to interacting with you as a potential client or as a client. And then once you have asked the value and you've kind of dug in a little bit deeper, you want to just ask permission to be able to brainstorm with them who they think could be a good fit. And then the last one is be specific. So oftentimes if you think about a Google search, if you make it too broad, then people aren't gonna be able to think of it. So a lot of our time, our mind works in like filing cabinet kind of concept. So if I just say, who do you know? The average person by the time they're about 21 years old knows about 1,000 people. So the problem is that when you say, well, who do you know that I could help out? It doesn't help them do anything at all. So if you're specific in regards to who you're sitting across from, let's say it's a divorce attorneys, you can say, who do you know that's another divorce attorney in the area? And they can give you a name. Now, of course, clarify that you're not necessarily looking for a divorce attorney outside of business, or maybe you are. That's, again, your personal choice and your personal issues, obviously. So once again, you get the process down, you get that language down. It's going to be extremely important, and we've talked about this in the past in previous episodes, is that it's going to be critical for you to be able to professionally role play out this language. So it comes across as genuine, it comes across as your language. And the other thing just to identify, no matter how polished your process and how polished your language is, that person sitting across from you may or may not give you referrals. And so you want to be able to recognize that what you're doing is you're giving each person an opportunity to let them know that you are open for new business and you do trust them to be able to be an introducer to you. We'll talk in another episode about how you can make these referral relationships more like cheerleaders, where they're holding themselves out to you and actually supplying names to you as you go out your practice. The other thing to remember then is in the ask is just to be consistent, make it a habit, and then the last part is to be prepared. I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. I think a lot of times when it comes to the internet, there's a lot of tools that can be utilized for that. So hopefully that can be of value to you as you look at the process and hammer down your language. I like the value method for myself personally. Did you find value in meeting? If so, why? Want to have a brainstorm session with you? I work really well with a specific person. Who comes to mind that you know that fits that niche? All right, hope that's useful. So the question is to the community is, what's your referral language? Have a fantastic day, everybody.